Alright guys, Possum's sick. Got to where she wouldn't start, so just a quick knee-jerk reaction. I snatched the starter off and carried it over there to get it rebuilt. It probably needed it anyway. Well, it did need it. They said that they think that was the original set of brushes that were in the old starter from 1964. Well, found a bunch of other stuff in the process, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rebuild the electrical all the way. New alternator, new starter. There's a story behind the alternator. I'll show you that in a minute. We're going to rewire the whole thing. There's a lot of factory wiring still in there that needs to come out because some of those other equipment's not in there anymore. Headlights, tail light, stuff like that. Spotlight for the implements, that's not on there no more. Most of the gauges don't work. Go figure. But we're going to give her an electrical overhaul. And we have started. Don't know if you can see it. Got the switch out. Got a new switch right there is going in. We come through here. Every one of these wires is going to be replaced. Every single one of them. And yes, that's the ground. And yes, the previous owner used a red wire for the ground. Yeah, that's real smart. But we're going to pretty much gut the electrical on it. Then we came into this little problem. When I was taking the alternator off, it took the top bolt off and the whole damn thing just fell out. The plate right here, if you can see where the alternator mounted, has broken off. Well, that's the same plate that seals the water pump. So definitely need a new plate, but I'm gonna try to skirt that for the rest of the summer. I'm gonna fab a plate up to come here, kind of fill the gap, give 100% weld. And I'm going to try to do that with some water running across the back of that plate, because that plate does have the seal to the water pump on it. That's got to be taken into consideration. Getting rid of the old external resistor, that's going away. Replacing the coil with internally resisted coil. We're going to replace the points and all this stuff. We're going to take all this gum, all of that is going away. We're going to make a simplified wiring harness and see if we can't bring some life into Possum. Because one of the problems with taking this plate off, I had to take just about the entire front end of this tractor apart to get that damn thing out of there. So, without further ado, we're going to dive in. I'm not going to videotape every little bit of it because y'all don't really want to see that. That's kind of boring, but you'll get the gist of what I'm doing. And we shall be back up in business, I hope, in a couple of days. Say a couple of days because I don't have a whole lot of time to spend on this thing. I got a bunch of other stuff I've got to do. We'll holler at y'all later. Alright guys and gals, electrical's done. I still got some wire loom wrap I got to put in, make sure I straighten up all these wires, but every single thing was replaced. Everything. What wasn't being used was removed. Still have the problem with the alternator. I cannot find that plate. Welding in that position is not really going to work worth a crap with my little cheap welder. If it was a stick welder, I'd be able to get in there a little bit better, but I'm going to grind that mess off and we're going to go a different route. But for now, I've got the resistor eliminated, cleaned up some wires, went to an internally resisted coil, new distributor cap, new rotor button, new points, new condenser, all that stuff set, ready to roll. Come through here, I've got all new wires pulled. I still got to finish doing the wire loom on it, kind of clean it up some. Came in here, don't know if you can see it, the sun's really bright, but we have replaced the ignition switch and the main cutoff switch. There's a story behind that main cutoff switch. That disconnect whipped my butt for a little bit, but we figured it out. Come around here, everything's been pulled out. All this wiring will be in loom. It'll look good. It'll be where it needs to be, out the way where it can't snag, and also protected from vibration against the side of the tractor. Well, she runs good finally. Now here's the story with the switch. got everything put together, starter rebuilt, all that stuff, would not crank, would not do nothing. I traced every single thing I could. I had the wires where they were supposed to be. I had heat where I needed it, and I had ground where I needed it, all the way through the whole system. Still couldn't figure it out. Called a friend of mine because I was getting frustrated with it. He comes over here with his dad. Well, it whipped my buddy's butt too, and he couldn't figure out what in the world was going on, because we were getting power on all these switches were getting power where they should. They were sending power where they should. Well, we're still getting nothing. And his daddy, being a very old school mechanic, he's in his 80s, and he's like, I wish I could know half of the stuff that he has forgotten over the years, and I'd be way better off. As the old man's pretty smart. Well, turns out that the original switch had a diode in it. The original disconnect switch, there was a diode in it, and it had failed. Well, in the process of it failing, you would still get power on the other side, on the output side of the switch, no problem. It read great on the meter. But then he put the ground on the meter, on the tractor, then put the lead up there, went to crank it, and sure enough, that switch dropped out. All that trouble for one switch. That switch ended up being about $100 to replace it, but it was the problem, and I could not believe that switch had a diode in it, but evidently that's how they did things back in 1964. So here we are. Everything's up, ready to go. All we got to do is the alternator, and as you see, make sure she is out of gear. I don't need a tractor across me, and I don't need one in my garage. Fires right up, runs good. We'll get back with you later on the alternator. Alright, we got to build our alternator bracket now and get all this mess back on. I found an alternator bracket on eBay. The only one I could find anywhere on this tractor. They hadn't made this thing in 30 years. Local pickup only in Indiana. Well, I sent the dude an email. Told him I'd pay him 3 times the cost of what he was asking for it if he'd ship it to me. Well, about a week later, he says, he responds, he says, well, we don't get to the mailbox all that often. Somebody come by here and get it. Okay, thank you, sir. What I've got here, scrap steel that I had laying around. I got a 1/2-inch steel plate that I've got welded and bolted on there. I won't never use that mounting point for anything. I got some angle iron. We're going to come up, we're going to cut that angle iron, we're going to fold it back, we're going to bring it up. From here, we're going to come up to here, to this point. We got a hole here. I'm going to open that hole up a little bit. We're going to put a 1/2-inch bolt in there. I'm going to make a spacer, come up with this other piece of scrap. I'm going to come up here, and we're going to set this thing about a 1/4 inch back from where it needs to be for perfect alignment. Reason being is the new alternator is about a 1/4 inch off. So if I come back about a 1/4 inch, that will line up perfect with some shims that I got in there, hardened steel shims that I had from some other project. I can't even remember where they came from. But we're going to take that, and we're going to try to make us probably the world's ugliest alternator bracket. But you know what? If it looks stupid and it works, it ain't stupid. I'll let y'all later. Alright, step 1, or actually that'd be step 2 after making the mounting plate. Let's get this thing at the right angle. I got it about where I want it to come off with one more leg up and then a leg over with a spacer, bolt, hole. Gonna need a longer belt. There's where we're at so far. Of course, I will not leave that as an open gap. That will be welded solid when I get done. But there's where we're at right now. God, it's hot. I am sweating like I don't know what. Oh well. Fat boys and southern summers usually don't mix too well. But there's where we at. Be back later. Here's where I am so far. Got a bracket sort of kind of roughed in. Bolted to the side. Made it out of what I had laying around. Some angle iron. Now it's just rusty and I will clean it up some, make it look a little bit better. But this is where we're at now. I'm fixing to hard mount it, and then we're going to do some indications for the alternator bottom bolt, and then we'll go from there. Well, here we go. Everything's mounted up. Got all the wires loomed up. The whole wiring harness is red, white, and blue, called America. Baby. Here's the new mount. Everything is in alignment. I have got my rope pulled through, pulled tight, marked for my new belt. That little spacer right there is the key to everything staying in line so I don't start throwing belts. Old Possum's going to be up and running. She's going, yes, I know that I hadn't changed the oil in a little while. She's getting the oil changed before she gets fired up. Everything good. We're ready to roll. Old Possum gonna ride again. Alright, go ahead. You got to teach them. You got to teach them young. This is my grandson. We don't have enough alpha males, so he's got to learn to work on stuff rather than play on computer stuff. Ain't that right, boy? Alright, turn it, screw it off. You teach him young. He's 5 years old. By the time he's 9 years old, he's going to be able to do an oil change on his own. Alright, let it sit right there. You got to teach him young. Make him do guy stuff. That's what I'm talking about. This boy's going to be a mechanic. He's going to make a fine living. Ain't that right, boy? Rooster. Alright, for the belt, we're going to use the AccuLink. My bracket moved the alternator just a little bit, and I'm having a hard time finding a regular belt. So we're going to use this adjustable V-belt. I do know that you have to pay attention to which way these tabs go. Travel must go this direction, that way there. Never used this before. We're going to see how this works. Might go, might blow, I don't know. If it goes, then I'll probably give a year review on it. It's an American made product. I believe it's made by Goodyear. I'm not 100% sure, but we're going to give it a go. Alright, she's running. That belt wobbles a lot. I don't really like that belt. I'm going to run it with that belt, but I'm going to look for the right size belt if I can find one. So we got Possum back together, ready to do some work. Everything looks good, everything seems good. Burning oil off the manifold. She would be a good old tractor if she didn't leak a little bit. Hell, I leak a little bit. I'm old too. Everything's ready to roll. Let's put this old girl back to work. Later, y'all. Okay, done, runs good, what we wanted to do, get the old girl back to work. I'm not happy with that belt. I fiddled with it some more. I took some links out. I got it so small that I couldn't get it over to a shiv, and I'm not happy with that belt. It's got a lot of flop in it. It slaps around a good bit. I'm going to buy a correct belt, even if I have to special order that limb. But I ain't gonna throw that thing away because it'd be pretty good to use as an emergency belt. Like, I got to finish up, my belt broke. But got my tractor back. We'll get back to work on that property, get it cleaned up, ready to put another house on it, and we'll holler at you guys later.